Imagine receiving a box from a queen, not filled with gold, not sparkling with jewels, but containing a living, venomous snake. The box itself, beautifully decorated, would seem like a treasure at first glance. But as the lid creaked open, the true nature of the gift would be revealed, a deadly serpent, coiled and ready to strike. This was not a mere present, but a chilling warning, a message that could freeze the blood of even the bravest soul. For Olympias's enemies, this was a real and immediate threat. The fear was not just of the snake itself, but of what it represented, the queen's reach, her cunning, and her willingness to use terror as a weapon. Olympias, queen of Macedonia and mother of Alexander the Great, sent these chilling gifts as a message. Cross me, and you'll pay. Her enemies knew that she was not to be underestimated, and that her vengeance could arrive in the most unexpected and horrifying forms. This wasn't just intimidation, it was psychological warfare at its most personal. Olympias understood that true power often lies in the mind, in the ability to make others doubt their safety, even in their own homes. In a world dominated by male warriors and kings, Olympias wielded terror and intelligence as her weapons. She carved out her own place in history, not by brute force, but by outsmarting and outmaneuvering her rivals. She didn't need vast armies to make her enemies tremble. She made them fear the very places they thought were safe, their own homes, their own beds, their own families. A snake was more than a threat. It was a curse, a symbol of her wrath and her power. In ancient times, serpents were seen as creatures of the gods, omens of doom, and harbingers of fate. Her audacity made her seem almost supernatural, commanding not just people but the dark forces of the earth itself. Olympias blurred the line between queen and sorceress, between ruler and legend. Olympias's legend began with the hiss of a serpent and the terror it inspired. Her enemies whispered her name in fear, knowing that her power extended far beyond the throne. She wasn't just a queen by marriage, she was a force to be reckoned with, a woman who shaped her own destiny and the fate of empires. Her creativity and ruthlessness set her apart from every other ruler of her time. She was both feared and respected, a master of both strategy and spectacle. The story of the snakes is a window into the soul of a woman who refused to be a pawn, who chose instead to become the queen on her own terms, and to rule with a power that still echoes through history. Who was Olympias? Her name echoes through the corridors of history, shrouded in legend and speculation. More than a queen, she was a force of mystery and power, a woman whose presence could silence a room and whose ambitions shaped the fate of empires. Born a princess in the rugged kingdom of Epirus, Olympias grew up surrounded by wild mountains, ancient temples, and a culture steeped in myth. Her childhood was filled with stories of gods, prophecies, and the ever-present struggle for survival and influence. Olympias was fiercely religious, a devoted follower of Dionysus, the god of wine and ecstasy. She was rumored to handle snakes in wild, secretive rituals, acts that both fascinated and terrified those around her, fueling whispers of her supernatural powers. To her allies, she was a fierce protector and a shrewd strategist, always ready to defend her family and her interests. To her enemies, she was a sorceress, a schemer, and a woman not to be underestimated. Her reputation was complex. Some saw her as a devoted mother, others as a dangerous witch. Depending on who you asked, Olympias was either a loving parent or a ruthless manipulator, always one step ahead of her rivals. She was beautiful, intimidating, and never content to sit quietly in the palace. Olympias demanded respect and attention, and she knew how to command both. Olympias claimed her right to power using every tool at her disposal: intellect, charisma, and, when necessary, fear. She was a master of court politics and intrigue. Her unpredictability and connection to the mystical made her larger than life. People believed she could bend fate itself, and her rituals only deepened the aura of mystery that surrounded her. People hesitated to cross her, unsure if she was guided by the will of the gods or by darker, more dangerous forces. Her presence inspired both awe and fear in equal measure. Olympias wielded the power of the unknown, making her enemies fear not just her, but what she might do next. In a world ruled by men, she carved out her own legend, one that endures to this day. Olympias's rise began with her marriage to King Philip II of Macedonia. As a princess of Epirus, she brought prestige and a legendary lineage, descended from Achilles. Her marriage to Philip was a political alliance, But Olympias was no passive bride. Their relationship was stormy. She fiercely protected her status and her son's future. Alexander was born soon after, and Olympias believed he was destined for greatness. Legends swirled around his birth: thunderbolts, snakes, and divine signs, stories Olympias encouraged. She shaped Alexander's belief in his own destiny, filling his mind with tales of gods and heroes. Her influence was immense, fueling his ambition and sense of divinity. While Philip taught him to rule, Olympias taught him to believe he was chosen. This blend of earthly training and divine belief changed history. Olympias's ambition for her son would shape the world. Snakes were Olympias's signature, symbols of death, rebirth, and divinity. She kept tame snakes in her quarters, unsettling visitors and rivals alike. This wasn't just spectacle, it was calculated intimidation. In a court full of plots, Olympias projected untouchable power. The snakes were a silent warning. "I command what you fear." Her enemies were terrified, not just of bites, but of curses and divine punishment. Sending a snake became a mark of supernatural power. Her reputation for sorcery isolated her enemies and made alliances dangerous. In a world where superstition and reality blurred, Olympias's snakes were proof she was different. She cultivated this belief, making her authority seem unearthly. Her snakes were more than pets. They were living symbols of her deadly potential. Olympias ruled through fear, and the court never forgot it. In Olympias's world, magic and religion were inseparable. The gods were real, their signs everywhere, and some people claimed a special connection to the divine. Snakes were chthonic creatures, linked to the underworld, wisdom, and healing. The oracle at Delphi was guarded by a serpent. Asclepius, god of healing, carried a snake staff. Olympias's devotion to the Dionysian cult set her apart. These secretive, ecstatic rituals often involved snakes and wild dancing. Outsiders saw them as frightening, fueling rumors of dark magic. Olympias embraced these practices, rejecting traditional male-dominated religion. Her snakes were religious symbols, proof of her special status. When she used them against enemies, it was more than a threat. It was divine retribution. Olympias turned her political battles into holy wars, with herself on the side of the gods. Olympias's reputation was more than legend. Her real actions were just as chilling. She was not simply a figure whispered about in the shadows of history. She was a force who shaped the fate of a kingdom with her own hands. Her presence in the palace was enough to send a shiver through even the bravest of courtiers. After King Philip's assassination, Olympias moved with astonishing speed and precision to secure Alexander's throne. She understood that hesitation could mean disaster, and so she acted decisively, outmaneuvering her enemies before they could even react. Her main rival, Cleopatra Eurydice, and her child were eliminated in brutal fashion. Olympias made sure that no threat to her son's rule would survive, sending a clear and bloody message to all who might oppose her. Olympias forced Cleopatra to choose her own death, and the child was killed, acts designed to terrify the court. These were not just executions, but calculated spectacles of power, meant to instill fear and obedience in everyone who witnessed or heard of them. Whether exaggerated or not, these stories show her ruthless resolve. Olympias was determined to protect her family's legacy at any cost, and she would not hesitate to use terror as a tool. She sent a message: "Threaten Alexander, and you face her wrath." Her warnings were not empty threats, they were promises backed by swift and merciless action. Olympias's cruelty was calculated, political violence meant to cement her power. Every move she made was part of a larger strategy to keep her enemies off balance and her allies loyal. Her reputation for mercilessness kept rivals in check. The mere thought of crossing her was enough to silence dissent and ensure loyalty, even among those who secretly despised her. Even when Alexander was away on campaign, Olympias wielded influence through fear and cunning. She managed the affairs of the kingdom, making decisions that would ripple across Macedon and beyond. She clashed with Regent Antipater, using accusations and her network of spies. Her ability to gather information and manipulate those around her made her a formidable opponent in the dangerous world of court politics. In the high-stakes game of Macedonian politics, her fearsome reputation was her greatest weapon. Few dared to challenge her openly, knowing the consequences could be fatal. Olympias's serpent-like cunning made her a master of psychological warfare. She understood that true power was not just about force, but about controlling the minds and hearts of those around her, ensuring her legacy would endure long after her reign. Olympias's driving force was her fierce love for Alexander. She saw his glory as her own, and her ambition for him was boundless. Every scheme, every act of vengeance, was for his legacy. Even from afar, her influence shaped Macedonia. She advised Alexander and managed her own court. Their bond was deep, but her interference caused instability, especially with Antipater. Olympias was both a powerful ally and a dangerous liability. Her ambition created new enemies and fueled political turmoil. After Alexander's death, the world she built for him unraveled. The wars of succession began, and Olympias fought fiercely for her grandson's inheritance. But her old tactics and fearsome reputation were no longer enough. In a brutal new world, even the Serpent Queen could not survive unchallenged. Olympias's life ended as violently as she lived. Besieged and captured after Alexander's death, she was condemned by the families of her victims. Stoned to death, she faced her end with pride and defiance. Her dramatic death only fueled her legend. Ancient historians painted her as a witch and a schemer, but could not deny her intelligence and strength. Her story echoed through centuries. Books, plays, and films cast her as the ultimate ambitious mother. The image of Olympias with her snakes became iconic. Her legend, though exaggerated, captures her essence. A woman who broke the rules and wielded fear as a weapon. Olympias's story is a reminder of the complexities of power and ambition. Was she a monster or a devoted mother? In truth, she was both and more. Olympias's story is more than ancient history. It's a lesson in power, strategy, and myth. She proved that history is shaped not just by men on battlefields, but by women in the shadows. Her legend endures because it reveals the many faces of power. By studying her life, we glimpse the politics, religion, and culture of ancient Macedonia. Stories like hers remind us that history is full of complex, overlooked figures. We're dedicated to bringing these stories to life. So if you found Olympias fascinating, subscribe for more. Click subscribe and turn on notifications to join us on our next journey into the past. Thanks for watching. Let's keep these stories alive.